Honestly, guys notice it more when you're out winning games, right? If Cleveland starts off in a bad start, they're not doing well, and all of a sudden Shador or Dylan Gabriel are doing well in 7-on-7. They're throwing dimes. In practice drills, the number one defense can't stop them. People take notice of that, and the more that the players see it, they're gonna. Then the comments start happening over the lunch table. They start happening throughout the building, and that's when the pressure really will get severe.
Before Jason Kelce abruptly decided to release a truth bomb that set their entire front office on fire, the Cleveland Browns believed that their only problem was finding someone who could truly throw a spiral. The millionaire owner stopped drinking coffee all of a sudden. He appeared to be prepared to Google how to purchase a new NFL franchise overnight as he paced the office. He was really shaken. What specifically did Kelce say that made everyone in the front office sweat through their suits and clutch their jerseys? Let's just say that compared to Brown's entire playbook, this one is Messier. Because sadness and inadvertent humor are the foundation of Cleveland's franchise's brand. They would already have a dynasty if there was a Lombardi trophy for coming up with the most ridiculous ways to lose. And just when supporters were beginning to think the club had emerged from the dysfunctional swamp, Jason Kelce, a recently retired man who ought to be playing golf and drinking beer, essentially says, "Congratulations, Cleveland. Your entire deck of cards is already ablaze. I watched that awful Cleveland Browns game. I like Joe Flacco, so they put him in there that he performed well, but they gave him access to all the first team members' resources."
In that miserable game by the Cleveland Browns. So they throw Joe Flacco in there, and I like Joe Flacco. He did good, but they gave him the resource of all the first team guys. Then they throw Dylan Gabriel in there with first teams and second teams. So Dylan always is getting protected. The same thing again, they gave this scrub max protection on every play. Yeah, he completed some passes, but let's talk about his mistakes. He's still inconsistent with his throws, but he at least had max.
At that point, the owner of the Browns changed from being a laid-back billionaire to someone who wants to destroy reality. To be honest, though, should we even be shocked? This franchise was the one that persuaded itself. The next Joe Montana was Johnny Manziel, the same group that intensified their efforts against Hugh Jackson as if it were a brilliant scheme, the same desperate play callers who gave up all honor in order to take a chance on Deshaun Watson. The Browns continue to reimagine failure year after year as if it were their own artistic endeavor. Additionally, the gallery is always open. Nevertheless, the fans continue to attend. Bless the souls that have been traumatized. Every season, they return to the stadium full of hope, only to depart with therapy bills and heartache. Here's the strange twist, though. It didn't feel like the typical trash fire this past season. For a little moment, it appeared as though the Browns had finally figured out how to play football. The front desk staff was giving each other high fives as if they had figured out the secret to life itself. The dog pound was screaming louder than ever, and Stefanski was being hailed as some sort of football genius. However, reality put them in a chokehold rather than merely tapping them on the shoulder, and it was none other than Jason Kelce who delivered that stomach punch. The legendary Eagles player Kelce, who spent a career redefining what it means to be an offensive lineman and occasionally stealing the show by dress like someone's mother at a holiday parade, has retired with no filter at all. Additionally, he didn't envision a rising contender in Cleveland. He witnessed a franchise trying to pass off its desperate attempts to duct tape catastrophes as innovation.
Shador Sanders in there with the lowest cab drivers you couldn't even get on 5th Street. And I'm pissed off, bro, because the play calling was abysmal. Look, even if you don't like Shador didn't even get a chance to be trash. Even if you think Shador is garbage, he didn't even get a chance to be garbage. That's how awful the offensive line was. Kevin Stefanski still doesn't want to give Shador second strings and first strings reps. Why is that? Now, what's more horrible about this game was it was to the point on...
He seemed to have lit up a neon sign that read, "Cleveland, you're in trouble," all throughout Ohio. And that's what makes a difference. This isn't just some haphazard internet troll or a bitter radio host expressing their opinions. This is Jason Kelce, a recognized veteran and Super Bowl champion who truly understands what a successful, stable team looks like. People take attention when Jason Kelce says that the Browns are only one QB injury away from complete catastrophe. And Cleveland's wealthy owner, Jimmy Haslam, loses it more quickly the louder the reverberation goes. Imagine this. while his assistants cower behind laptops and hope he doesn't draw them into the meltdown, has Slam stormed around his office like a villain from a soap opera, whispering under his breath about loyalty. Not to mention that this is the same owner who used a staggering $230 million guaranteed agreement to mortgage Cleveland's future on Deshaun Watson. What did they receive in exchange? A quarterback who appeared rustier than a car abandoned in a winter in Cleveland, missing games and questionable performances.
He's the guy that they wanted to start. He's seasoned, he's experienced, he still has a big-time arm, even at his age, and they open with the Cincinnati Bengals. They wanted that experienced guy. He was always going to be the guy. They were not going to start Dylan Gabriel or Shedeur Sanders in week 1. Kenny Pickett had a hamstring injury. It makes it easy to go Joe Flacco. And the question isn't and wasn't going to be who's the starter in Cleveland. The question is who's going to be the backup in Cleveland? Who's going to be the number 2 quarterback when they open the season against
The franchise is not merely in financial hardship. It's more tightly bound than a college student mired in credit card debt. He didn't sugarcoat it, Kelce. He essentially stated out what everyone had been speculating about. The Browns committed to a quarterback who hasn't looked particularly good in a long time. Joe Flacco's unexpected postseason run was insufficient to hide the impending catastrophe. The humor starts at that point. Browns owners don't take offense at their own poor choices. When someone else calls them out, they become enraged. The crowd eventually saw the rabbit in the hat, so it's like a magician having a meltdown. The supporters, meanwhile, weren't furious. They were giving nods. Since Browns admirers have a terrible sense of heartbreak, let's face it, they are able to detect impending catastrophe. And with all of your hopes resting on one player, aged offenses and unavoidable injuries.
A couple days, 3 days until roster cutdowns, how do you feel about that? Do you feel like you belong here on this team?
Obviously, I think overall as a player, I feel like I put in the work. I feel like everything I do, I try to do it to my best, and that's all I ask for. So I feel like everybody feels like, they should be on the team. And if you ask anybody on the team, would they feel like they belong, in their own eyes. So I feel like I do, but I'm my own player. I think about myself in a high regard.
You're only one ACL rupture away from witnessing the entire club collapse if a contract consumes a salary cap. And that's not a welcoming community in the AFC North. It's a combat zone. Lamar Jackson, a human joystick for the Ravens, acts as though he is using cheat codes. Joe Burrow of the Bengals might throw 3 touchdowns before halftime while wearing a medical gown and in 4 drip. And despite their ongoing chaos, the Steelers never give up. They simply reload, intensify their grinding, and add a little of that enduring Mike Tomlin magic. The Browns, on the other hand, are the child at recess who learns how to tie his shoes at last only to face plant a few seconds later. And Jason Kelce went straight for the jugular there. He was not merely a trash talker.
You're a betting man. Who do you think starts for the Browns at quarterback?
Okay, this is the situation. Kenny Pickett, they actually traded for him. Joe Flacco, no one's bringing Joe Flacco in the building thinking Joe Flacco's going to be the starter. If Joe Flacco is your starter,
You got a problem.
you have a huge problem. And if they were saying Shedeur was the starter as the 5th rounder, you got a real problem too, because he passed over all these guys in these reps in the offseason in shorts, in bikini shorts, Speedos and stuff. Like, no, that kind of stuff. So I'm not that surprised. When you put down a 3rd round pick on a quarterback, you do believe he has a certain...
With surgical precision, he punctured Cleveland's softest bruise. He reminded everyone that the Brown family's purported future did not appear to be a Super Bowl parade. It resembles an unpaid parking ticket that accumulates late fines on a monthly basis. Oh, how unbearable it was for Haslam. It wasn't because Kelce was being unjust. Rather, it was because every syllable was full of the truth. Furthermore, when Jason Kelce speaks the truth, it reverberates around the league. Remember that Jimmy Haslam has never been very composed under duress. This is the same guy who used the Browns as a lab for his own experiments, rotating quarterbacks and coaches like they were expired milk cartons. You would think that someone had insulted Lamb's grandmother rather than his football team when Kelce nonchalantly brought up the obvious. Lamb apparently had a complete breakdown. To be honest, it's hilarious. This billion-dollar club owner is having trouble sleeping because of the direct remarks made by a retired lineman who doesn't even play in his division. But let's face it, Jason Kelce is not the subject of this. It has to do with what Kelce stands for. He is the mirror that Cleveland won't examine. The voice reminded them that their enchanted brief run with Joe Flacco was really a fairy tale. It ended at midnight, just like all fairy tales.
Given what we saw yesterday with Shedeur Sanders, somebody on the Cleveland Browns is 100% getting fired, probably by the end of this year. The person who's probably going to end up getting fired is Kevin Stefanski, because I know that he didn't want Shedeur Sanders on the team. It was Andrew Berry who made that pick. You can't really go against your GM. Bad things happen in this situation. But Shedeur Sanders is not without fault for what we saw yesterday. This is the play that we saw yesterday that has the internet just exploding, where Shedeur Sanders took like a 24-yard sack. Half of the internet is saying that this is all Kevin Stefanski.
With the pumpkin carriage outside the stadium, the irony is astounding. One of the NFL's most disorganized quarterback rooms belonged to the Browns. Deshaun Watson was intended to be the franchise's chosen one, the golden ticket and its savior. Rather, he has been hurt inconsistent and appears to be a man who is still having trouble recalling the location of the end zone. Then Joe Flacco appears out of nowhere. Only after Watson's season ended did the Browns give him a call, and he walked in as if he found a fountain of youth in his garage. He immediately began throwing bombs downfield as if it were 2012, making the entire company look stupid. Imagine spending $230 million on your franchise player only to have a 39-year-old who wasn't even on your roster surpass him in public 3 weeks later. That's not just awkward, it's humiliation on a historic scale. It revealed their quarterback predicament as an impending catastrophe. Even their fleeting successes seemed like smoke and mirrors.
Of a mustard seed, right? Because this is the greatest resurrection since Jesus the Christ, right? Like at some point, Joe Flacco was thinking about getting into TV, right? Joe Flacco didn't have a job, and then now you not only come back and start for the Cleveland Browns late in the 2023 season, but they came back around to you, and you're now the day one starter for a franchise that just 2 years ago was in the playoffs.
Then Kelce appeared and tore the curtain open, revealing the true nature of the supposed magician of Heslam. One sprained ankle away from complete collapse is a billionaire hoping no one notices his entire franchise. It makes sense why Haslam was furious. He has been persuading supporters of this glittering vision of stability, advancement, and the Browns' eventual rise to contender status. Then Jason Kelce casually tells the world that Cleveland is still merely a clown vehicle with a new paint job while drinking his post-retirement smoothie, as if it were nothing. And the fans? Oh, it hurt even more. Kelce was not attacked by Brown supporters. They chuckled. They filled Twitter with caustic, were doomed postings, and used memes to ridicule their own team.
This is the unofficial depth chart that they released prior to the preseason game, where now Tyler Huntley would be, right behind Flacco. They need to take Flacco and just put him away, get him ready for the Cincinnati Bengals. Like, don't even worry.
Put him in the cryo chamber that Bobby Carpenter sleeps in every night.
Yeah, does not need to play at all. Barely practice because they're having to sign now another quarterback. And keep in mind, they already have Watson, who's hurt.
Others even expressed gratitude to Kelce for expressing what they had been yelling into their pillows for years. Realizing that the very individuals who are spending thousands of dollars on season tickets agree more with an outsider than with him is the most devastating thing that can happen to an owner. And the media tempest arrived just as Haslam believed things couldn't get much worse. It was consumed like a Thanksgiving feast by sports talk shows. Cleveland was in trouble. According to the headlines, whether Deshaun Watson was the biggest error in the franchise's history was a subject of intense debate. Even opposing fan bases enthusiastically joined in. This is the most outrageous part. Even with a top 5 defense, a postseason berth, and a Coach of the Year trophy in the lobby, the Browns might still be perceived as a failure. The best part is that the majority of the pandemonium is self-inflicted. Other franchises make mistakes and move on. However, the Browns don't simply stumble. Instead, they construct a condominium on the sidewalk and make a lifelong commitment to tripping over it. However, the math remains unchanged. There won't be any easier division. the agreement won't expire. Furthermore, no amount of smoke and mirrors can change a reality that Cleveland is trapped by its own errors. The fissures were visible even with Joe Flacco's amazing cameo. It simply made them more noticeable. Indeed, Cleveland Kelce expressed it clearly. You're in danger. Additionally, based on the receipts, he is correct. Remember to share, like, and subscribe. I'll see you at the next one.